What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we have an oldie but a goodie. And this is the Spyderco Rubicon 2. When I started my knife collection here a little while back, I came across Spyderco, obviously, as any person who spends any amount of time in the knife hobby. And I think I'm on record saying that the Spyderco aesthetic, the typical leaf shape of the blades, of the paramilitaries of most of Spyderco's knives, it didn't appeal to me. I just didn't like it. I don't. I think they're excellent tools. I think they're excellent slicers. I think they're well built. But I just don't think they're beautiful. The aesthetic, I don't like it. So I kept looking, and I came across this design. This is I think his name is Peter Carey. I think you see his mark right there, and I saw that he had designed the one that I actually found, or that I saw first, was the Rubicon 1, which was a similar blade, or the same blade, but it had a rounded handle. But I couldn't find that one. That one was long gone by the time I started collecting knives, and I couldn't even find it in the secondary market. So I started looking, and then I was able to find the Rubicon 2, and this one, I believe, in some of the dark recesses of the internet, in some stores, you might still find this one. I know of at least one place that still has them. They're not common, and they're not easy to find, but you can if you look deep enough. But and this was my first Spyderco, and it was because it kind of looks a little bit different from what a lot of Spydercos do. The blade shape, the grind, it was just far more appealing to me. So that was kind of my gateway into Spyderco. So let me give you kind of a tour of the knife. What you have here is kind of it's not quite a recurve, because from here to here it's kind of flat, but it tilts down, so it makes the appearance of it being a recurve. You've got this. It's a hollow grind. I'm gonna rotate slowly to see if the light catches the hollow. Let's see. There, you see it right there. And so you've got a hollow grind with a large flat, and that's another thing that's not very traditional of Spyderco, right? In Spyderco, most of the time you got a flat grind from the top to the bottom, and here you've got kind of a hollow saber grind from right here. Then you have this swedge that creates kind of this spear point, and I thought that was really attractive. The two grinds coming together. It's obviously symmetrical on both sides, and this is a liner lock, which also you don't see a lot of Spydercos with a liner lock. It's also a flipper. You don't have a lot of Spydercos with a flipper. And you have this orange backspacer. You have carbon fiber scales. So the aesthetic of the carbon fiber, the dark titanium liners, the orange, I believe that's very attractive. And with the blade, and you have a flipper, a typical Spyderco clip, and it's built in the Taichung, Taiwan factory, which I think, if you're talking Spydercos, I think probably their Golden Colorado stuff is probably the top of the line, followed by the Taichung, Taiwan, maybe the Seki City stuff. But anyways, we'll talk about finish and quality here in a little bit. So let me give you size comparisons, because this is a really nice size of a knife. So let's compare it with its brethren, the Para 3, and that is the Para 2. So much more comparable in size, and probably very close in size to the Para 3. A little more blade on the Rubicon, probably well, it's the blade length is probably between those two, but a really really nice size. Let me give you the comparison with the Benchmade bug outs. That's the full size bug out right here, and that's the mini bug out right there. So as you can tell, it's not a huge knife. It's not a huge knife. It's a really nice knife, and I'll show you against the pair of three in profile and in the pocket. So it doesn't fall down to the smallest of things, right? It's kind of tall in that direction, but it's still very nice to carry. So let's get into the review. Oh, before I forget, this is in S30V, and at the time that this one came out, S30V was still one of the better premium steels. A lot has evolved, and now kind of a lot of the M390 is more of the benchmark. But at the time, I think this was really very good. So let's start with ergonomics, okay? And the ergonomics on this one are actually very good. You got a little bit of jimping, but it's so soft that it's effective, but it's far from painful. And then you have a finger groove here and a swell, and it feels your hand. You see, I wear large gloves, and it still feels my hand really nicely. Now you have this space up here in the front, but it's not quite a jewel, and I would not recommend cutting with your finger over here. I guess you could kind of almost like a gun trigger right here, but it's probably meant to be held back here. Now you are a little bit away from the cutting edge, a little bit away from the action, so to speak, but I think it's still ergonomically, I think it works very well. The pocket clip, you don't feel it. There's no hot spots that I can feel, and even though it's got a flat surface right here, it's chamfered and contoured right at the edges, and it's very nice. It's very soft, so you don't feel any of the corners anywhere. Now cutting is very good. It's not very thin blade stock. Let me see if I can compare it here. You see, that's the blade stock of the Para 3, and that's the blade stock of the Rubicon 2. So it's a little bit thinner than the Para 3, but because the Para 3 has a flat grind, it comes down to a really thin edge, and it takes a lot longer to become thick. So this one, it starts with a thinner stock, but it carries the flat all the way here. Now it does have a hollow, so for shallow cuts from here to about right here, you have incredibly really thin, really nice cutting. But it gets thick to about right here, but then it doesn't keep going thicker. So for shallow cuts, it probably does a little bit better than a Para 3, and then for deeper cuts, I think maybe the Para 3 starts getting a little bit better. Now, because of the shape of the blade and because this flat carries all the way to here, you actually have a much more robust tip. The Para 3, it obviously it's a flat grind, so it tapers in, but it's also, it just has a distal taper, which means that it tapers from this side to that side, and it gets to a really thin pointy edge. So the Para 3 is a better piercer, but this one has a little bit more durability, just because the tip is more robust. And in all honesty, I've never encountered a situation where I wanted more pokiness than one of these things will require. And I like the added strength. This one's the paramilitaries and the Para 2 and the Para 3. They're so thin at the point that I worry that whenever I'm piercing something, that I might break the tip, and I never need anything more than this. So I appreciate the added strength at the tip. Now, the action is it's not the greatest. Let me tell you why. I think the detent's a little soft, so I can fail it if I just push button it slowly. You see, I can fail it numerous times. Now, if you switch it, okay, if you light switch it, it's a little bit more reliable to do that. But the detent's very, very light. Now, you can disengage the liner, but it's a little bit deep, so it's not quite as bad as, let's say, the Peña, the Raptors, the Apaches, and those. It's not quite as bad as the Finch it was, but it's still not very easy to disengage. Now, the other thing is, you see the liner, it fully engages. That's more like a, I don't know, call it a 60 to 70% engagement. So that's a little bit more than I would like to see. I think, maybe a little less. It's definitely thicker liners. You can see they're not thin liners, but the action, the detent's a little bit light, and it doesn't drop shut. So you have like kind of both the worst of both worlds, right? A light detent and a blade that doesn't drop. So the action's not the greatest. The action, I think, and maybe it's Spyderco's lack of expertise with liner locks. I'm trying to think of other. You can consider the compression like a sort of a liner, but I think they do these much better. The action on this it's much snappier, and it just drops shut, and this is nowhere near that. They're just and I've had this for much longer than I've had any of these, so it's not a breaking in kind of a thing. Now, the fit and finish is, like I said, I think the fit and finish of the Golden Colorado manufacturing is better, and the lightness of the detent might be a function of that. Now, other than that, I think the fit and finish is excellent. I love the grind lines. I think it's something that manufacturers should do more. The hollow here, and I don't know if you can see it, but the switch is actually hollow ground as well. Let me rotate it slowly on both sides. Hopefully the light can catch it in both ways. So the fit and finish, they've got symmetrical grind lines. It locks up. It's perfectly centered. The back spacer's perfectly flush. The Cairo fiber looks really nice. So other than the detent and the fact that the liner engages like well beyond 50%, it engages far too much, in my opinion. I think that the fit and finish is decent with or good, and with just those two exceptions right there. So the airing of grievances, not many. Like I said, I think my biggest grievance is the action, because whenever I rotate into this knife for Carey, and if there's always those two or three flicks at the beginning of the day where I forget that it's a very light detent and I fail the knife. So I think if you like very light detents, then you like this one. I feel myself that I have to kind of preload for the light switch, and it's not a drop shut action. But if you're looking, I failed it there. If you're looking for a Spyderco that doesn't look, like your paramilitaries, like your natives, like your Manics, like all of those, then this is certainly an alternative to that design. Again, you're gonna have to hunt for it, because new, I found at least one place that still has them, but there aren't very many. Or you may need to find them in the secondary market. But again, sometimes you just want something different in your collection, and a lot of the Spydercos that I have, the Mannix, the Domino, the Paramilitary, they kind of look the same, and this one looks a little bit different. It's kind of why I want the sleesh buoy, but they're just so damn expensive right now. So that'll have to wait a little bit. Well, guys, hopefully this tickled your fancy. It's a pretty nice knife. It's certainly different. It's certainly a little bit unique in the Spyderco lineup. And if you liked it, if you enjoyed it, if you think I earned it, then like and subscribe. Don't hit the notification button. Nobody likes extra emails. You know where to find me if you want to see the videos. And until I see you again, take care.